She cried to the southern wind about a love that was sure to end. Every dream in her heart was gone, heading for a showdown. Bad dreamer, what's your name? Looks like we're riding on the same train. Looks as though there'll be no rain. It's gonna be a showdown.
We need this win, you know. We got a lot of losses to.
Yeah, we got a lot of losses. That's what we're here for, guys, to win.
Don't you hate pants?
Welcome to another edition of the Giles and the Goalie podcast. If things sound a little different, it's because we are Skyping this one because we got kind of lazy and didn't want to go to the bar, basically. That's what it comes down to. So, with that, Giles, what's crack-lacking, Giles? What's going on?
I set the record for lowest productivity today by nothing. I didn't even want to go out and record a podcast in a bar. That's how little I care of going out today.
Understandable. You didn't overserve yourself during the Vikings game? Is that not what happened?
No, I'm going to be honest, I was kind of dozing off during the Vikings game.
I can relate.
I don't know.
All right, well, no, fair enough. I've actually had a productive Sunday, which is weird, kind of scary, a little foreign. I'm not really sure what to do with myself at this point. I worked today and did some stuff around the house. I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah, I did all my housework yesterday morning / afternoon, got it all done, and then I averaged it out today by doing nothing. So
that's typically my game plan.
Average weekend.
Yep. Yeah, I guess I didn't do anything yesterday, so I just kind of did that in reverse. Anywho, so yeah, we are here via Skype, something we haven't done in a while, but you know, I think it has its advantages in that we both have a computer screen directly in front of us, so you know, maybe if you're listening to this with a computer screen right in front of you, you can play along with us like it's some kind of, you know, Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of thing or something. I guess I didn't think about it like that until just now, but it makes sense. Anyway, so the Wild had 3 games, and, you know, 2-0-1, that's... Well, we said last week, you know, if we end up with, I think it was 3 points was kind of a push, and 4 points was a successful week, given the couple of tough matchups that we had. So, I mean, 5 points, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty good week. The loss last night in Dallas was a little... I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I guess kind of maybe disheartening, because I felt they were a little conservative in overtime because they were taking really long shifts. And I don't know. I would have liked to maybe be a little more aggressive, maybe put out some more speed guys in overtime over your more skilled players, but I don't know. I'm not paid to make those decisions.
Yeah, and I did see that tweet from you. The fact that Holla didn't play in overtime, and has he even played in overtime yet? I don't know that he has. I don't think he has.
But I mean, just from the center position, I know Koivu had some shifts. Granlund had a shift. I think Coyle had a shift or two, and then Holla had no shifts, which I feel like you're kind of shortchanging yourself if you're not giving him at least a shift, because he's been playing well and his speed is very usable in a 3-on-3 overtime. Yeah,
and to your point, I mean, holy speed. You know, I don't. It's not like it's tailor-made for Erik Haula, because that kind of makes him sound like he's some kind of you know, trailblazing offensive dynamo, and he's not. But yeah, I mean, I think his speed absolutely could be of use. At the very least, you know, it's the reason why he's as good as he is on the PK, and you know, why he's as good as he is defensively, because he can shadow guys. You know, look at that Klingberg goal. You know, he could have possibly chased him down if he was in the right position.
Yeah, if he could have, but we won't know.
Right.
Won't ever know. It's just one of those things, and I put out one of the fancy new Twitter polls out there last night, and just kind of getting a feel if everybody thought similar to what I do right now. But I said, who's a better center right now, Granlund or Haula? And 37 voters chimed in, and 76% said Haula.
Yeah.
So that's obviously more on Granlund's poor play, but Haula's been playing pretty well. So good on him, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and I think I'm just kind of looking at the stats right now. The stats do bear that out a little bit. Haula's got a tick more points per 60 minutes than Granlund, even though he's got 3 points in the season and Granlund has 5. But I think to your point and to everyone else's point, I think if I were to cut that down into a date range, I think in the last 2-3 weeks, I mean it's all Haula. I think that a lot of those points from Granlund were front loaded in the beginning of the season when I think he got in on some of those Parise goals, part of the bonanza to open the season, and I think recently Haula has been playing noticeably better, and it's just been flat out more noticeable. Whereas Granlund has been either not noticeable, which is bad in hockey, or he's been noticeable for the wrong reasons, which is worse.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. You need a lot more out of Granlund. Koivu was playing out of his mind at 32, and
right.
I just kind of keep waiting for the other shoe to fall off there with his play, but maybe he can carry that for a whole season, but asking for him to do that seems like a lot. So
yeah,
I don't know. You need him to step it up, and he looked so lost last night. It just woof.
Yeah, it's you want to give credit to Koivu because that line is, my God, that line is freaking awesome right now. And part of that, give a lot of credit to Nino and Zucker on that, obviously, because they're playing really well right now too, and Granlund is obviously saddled up with Pominville, who's having if anyone's having a worse start than Granlund, it's Pominville. So there's a little bit to that, but it's still, it's Granlund is that's a line where you were penciling, or not even penciling, you were writing in ink that is the first line, every day, and now it's not only is it the second line, it's a line that's definitely performing more like a third line with talent that you feel like should be top line talent.
Right, and with the way Coyle and Vanek and whoever they plug in on the other wing is going, they're kind of more of a second line in terms of scoring right now. So
yeah, Coyle he was on fire last night. Getting opportunities and whatnot, and Vanek has gone back to lovable Austrian sniper Vanek. So it's a whole new world. Yeah,
that movie put on the Jets on Tuesday was just that's a thing of beauty. That's why you're paying him that money. And I guess kind of we're seeing that he can still do this, and last year was just a big giant fluke of getting used to a new team and then terrible injuries.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to that, and I've mentioned before. I think that his critiques on his own season last year were valid, and his critiques on the team and how that affected the way he plays were kind of valid too, even if they weren't the most popular opinions. But we're seeing him comfortable and healthy, maybe for the first time ever in a Wild sweater, and wow, it's obviously paying off huge. So. I don't know that he's going to keep up on this kind of tear the whole season, but if you can get goals like that out of him occasionally, considering he's a guy that is like you said, a second line guy to maybe even a guy that you could consider being on the third line, that's huge because obviously the Koivu line is doing its thing. So if you can get that kind of production out of somebody who's on the second or third line, depending on how you see it, especially when Parise comes back to that Granlund line, wow, that's something that's a force to be reckoned with if you can go 3 lines deep like that.
Yeah, I think I saw he's tied with Parise for most goals on the team with 7.
Yep.
So that's good. He's still good to make me go, what the hell are you doing? Sometimes when he just throws a blind behind the back pass to nobody on a power play.
Yeah.
Still much better.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's good to see. Obviously, and unfortunately, Pominville has gone the other direction. You were kind of hoping for a little bit of a bounce back season from him, and he really hasn't bounced back. So getting that out of Vanek, where he definitely is having a bounce back season, especially with Parise out right now. I mean, it's definitely needed because this team, it's not like they're overflowing with scoring punch, a la the Dallas Stars. So, it's definitely a good thing.
Pominville had an empty net. Puck was in the crease. All he had to do was tap it in yesterday, and it got blocked by a defenseman's skate.
Yeah.
So at that point, I just said he won't ever score again. Just pack it in. So now that I've said that, he'll score first thing on Tuesday night against Pittsburgh. So
Could you possibly go on the Sportive podcast and pick him to be your turd for the season, please?
Well, I don't think they do redos, but I can see, but
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that clearance would allow you to change your Koivu pick at this point.
No. And you mentioned Clarence, I think we're legally obligated to call it the old or young men in the C line, not the Koivu line. Otherwise,
okay,
you have to deal with angry Clarence.
You don't want to anger Clarence Swamptown. That's just something that you just don't do.
No, not at all. But yeah, I don't know what Pominville did to piss off the hockey gods. But I think I just put it out on Twitter the other day. He drank Joe Boo's rum, and that's all I got. I don't have anything else. Yeah, he
definitely had something. There's some kind of voodoo at work there, because it's gotten so bad that it's not even surprising anymore. Like, we've become desensitized to him having, an unbelievable chance, falter, whether it's him doing it, just missing the net, or whether it's, an errant skate or an errant stick comes flying in out of nowhere and deflects it or something like that. And not to say that he's off the hook or anything, but it's like there's all of these golden opportunities that he's getting. How many pipes he's clanked at this point? It's comical. I mean, we become desensitized, and now it's comical. Now we can just laugh, because it's like it's not even frustrating anymore. It's just a running joke.
And then at what point does that running joke kill your team in the end?
Right. No, that's true.
I have no explanation for this. It makes no sense. None whatsoever. I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know what he could possibly do to make it better, but I don't know. So anyway, the Carolina game, we talked about that last week being kind of a trap game, and that kind of worked out, because they almost lost that game. Great than in overtime, but yeah, they almost lost that game, and man, that is a team that you definitely want to beat, and you really don't mind giving a loser point to an Eastern Conference team that isn't really going anywhere anyway. Right. But you really also don't want to have a white knuckle game against a team that's very obviously in a rebuilding mode.
Yeah, I think it was the first period. We got dinged in our own zone far too long, and we were just tired, and we had 2 crap goals, and finally they came back out in the second, and they played like they remembered to play hockey after that Dubynk save on, I forget who it was.
Skinner.
Yeah, he's the equivalent of Pominville.
He really was.
He had about 15 chances to win in overtime, and he couldn't bury any of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It was, they really came out playing like absolute garbage. I mean, absolute garbage. I couldn't, and Carolina gets 2 quick goals, and it's like, oh my God, no! Like this is really freaking happening, it was just mind blowing that it was happening like that. Like it against a team that's not that really good, I mean, it's so. That was great to get out of there with 2 points. You kind of had to do it the bastardized way in overtime, in the 3-on-3 overtime. But on the bright side, we got to see our very first 3-on-3 overtime victory out of the Wild. So to get that out of the way, maybe that's a cool thing. Maybe that's something you'd rather do, like I said, against a bottom-feeding Eastern Conference team than handing over the loser point to, God forbid, somebody in the freaking Central Division.
Well, I mean, we certainly paid for that overtime win, because we had to go through 3.5 minutes of gut-wrenching penalty kill time, it seemed like, and yikes. It's fortunate we got a win against that team that still employs Cam Warden.
Yeah.
They paid Eric Stahl ungodly sums of money.
Yes. That's nepotism gone wrong right there.
Yikes.
Yep. But then, so that was, it was a trap game, but obviously coming out on top is huge, and any time that your goaltender can bail you out on a game like that, which Dubynk definitely bailed them out in that game, aside from that save that you mentioned, that you actually tweeted about seconds after it happened, to remember it, because it did end up saving the game. Anytime you're going to have him bail you out, I mean, that's huge, especially given the start that he got off to. There was a lot of legitimate concern about him, and a lot of it, it was kind of comical, because some people were instantly bringing up his contract, and it's just like, and there's a lot of us that were a little more patient with our thoughts on that, and that's really proven to be the right line of thinking, because man, has he come on like a house of fire in the last at least week, if not 2 to 3 weeks. He's really been playing well.
Oh yeah, I pulled up the splits on Dubynk for. You can do that on NHL.com. You can look at the October and November splits. And,
yeah.
My computer wants to load here. Trying to pull it up.
They've had all sorts of problems with those SAP stats.
Well, the SAP stats, that other stuff is just that is way out of left field. I don't know where they get that. That's a whole topic for another day. But anyway, finally loaded on my crap computer. In October, Dubynk had 7 wins, 7-2-1. 2.59 goals against average, 8.98 save percentage.
Oof.
In November, 3-1-1, 2.17 goals against, 9.30 save percentage.
Wow.
So he
and small sample size,
a lot better.
But still, that's 2 weeks. So you're looking at half of the month. You're halfway through the month, and 9.30. That's what he did down the stretch last year. I don't know that I wouldn't expect that for the entire rest of the season. Because he's probably going to go through maybe a little bit of a rough patch again. Not a rough patch, but just a patch where he's just playing merely okay and not stealing games. But yeah, the fact that he's been playing at a 9.30 save percentage clip for the last 2 weeks, that's awesome, and that's exactly what we had kind of hoped for with that 6-year deal, even though, I've said until I'm blue in the face that I think the structure of it makes it more of a 3 or 4 year deal, but
yeah.
Some other fun with numbers here, as long as I'm sitting in front of a computer. So, out of the regular Wild players, so not counting Birchie and Fontaine, who didn't really get to play a whole lot of games, Jason Pominville is 7th on the team in shooting on net percentage.
Nice.
Yeah, 49.5%. So about half the time he's hitting the net. And I think that's relevant. And it's been something that's been somewhat of a bit for me and Tony from Hockey Wilderness, but actually Jason Zucker is second worst on the team to Christian Folin at 45%. Obviously nobody's crapping on Zucker because, he's playing unreal, but it really kind of goes under the radar unless you're making a kind of a jokey comparison of it. But Jason Zucker, he is the real Pomin whiff, if you will.
Yeah, I think he had the lone good shot on goal or shot on attempt in overtime for the Wild, and he just put it over the net off the glass. And I think, if I remember correctly, but you don't really think about him missing the net a whole lot because usually he finds the back of the net from time to time. So you just don't really think about it. But yeah, that probably noticed that a lot more now you pointed it out.
and that's exactly what happened to me when Tony pointed it out. It kind of all of a sudden I'm watching the game. It's like, oh wow, yeah, there's Zucker missing it again, and Zucker missing it again, and in the defense of him and Pominville, because obviously Jason Zucker's not a bad hockey player. Well, nobody's trying to imply that. It's just kind of a fun with numbers kind of thing. To both of their credits, they're both getting those opportunities. Finding a play, finding an opening to get a shot in the NHL is not easy to do. And that's kind of been, the point of me and other really stats-based Pominville defenders is just, he's finding opportunities to shoot. And he's botching every single one of them to this point, but, he's finding opportunities to shoot.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Generating a lot of opportunities.
So
that's kind of what you want.
Yeah, anyway, speaking of a shooting gallery, the game on Tuesday at home, welcoming the bitter rivals, the Winnipeg Jets, that was a fun game. I was there, and that was a blast, as it kind of always is when Winnipeg comes to town. Credit to their fans. Their fans come in droves, and they have a good time. And I didn't get to talk to anybody from Winnipeg, but typically it's relatively good natured, and there isn't a whole lot of obscenities or something or any kind of death threats, which I guess you would kind of assume when you have a meeting of Canadians and Minnesotans. But that was a blast. That game was an absolute blast to be at, and my God, did Thomas Vanek absolutely own the Jets halfway through that game.
Yeah, he. They had what, 4 goals in the second, sparked by the Curtis Gabriel fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't. And I brought this up too. And then I've long been I guess you could call it a proponent of fighting, as much as there is one. I don't mind fighting in the area that it exists right now in the NHL. I think that it's toned way down, and it happens when it happens. Most of the time, it happens for a reason. That fight really didn't. That fight was of more of the staged variety, and I wasn't a big fan of it because it's like it's the Jets and the Wild. There's sufficient amount of bad blood there to where you think just by happenstance that at some point in the game there's probably going to be a pretty decent reason to fight, don't you think? Like, that just seems like that's going to happen at some point. And instead, he goes out, I believe it was early in the second period, and just, decides to dance with a guy while the Wild have the puck in the offensive zone. And it's like, it just, I'm fine for the code, quote unquote, but that wasn't necessarily it. So it's like, I think there's there's fair criticisms of fighting, and that's definitely one of them, especially when your team is in the offensive zone. And then the fact that he didn't play after that was also head scratching. But that's I guess a whole other topic altogether. But anyway, awesome game. I was there for a work function, as horrific as that sounds, but we had first level club seats, and we were on the end. And we were on the end that the Wild were shooting on in the second period, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
And actually, in total, 7 out of the 8 goals scored that night were in our end. So I kind of prefer those end seats anyway, just because I kind of I like the layout of the ice in front of me. But, I mean, just the fact that you can get a vast majority of a high-scoring game with all the goals scored right in front of you like that makes up for it, because when goals are scored at the other end, it's kind of it's kind of like a what just happened kind of thing when you're at the opposite end. But when you can get them all in front of you like that and get the view that you prefer, like I do, that was pretty awesome. So a good time had. You disappointed that you missed out on that game, Giles?
Not really. I've kind of gotten accustomed to watching the game from home, which certainly is more beneficial to my wallet.
Yeah.
But, I always prefer to watch the game in the arena. It's kind of like how you said, you can see everything that's going on the ice. Whereas in the TV, you're not getting a full view of everything. But,
right.
Needed to get 2 points against a divisional team, and you did. It wasn't exactly a pretty finish there in the third period, but when you score 5 goals in the first 2 periods, you're gonna have a good chance of winning the game.
Yeah, and I think a little bit to the Wild's credit, like you said, they kind of did fall apart a little bit at the end, but they allowed those 2 goals relatively in succession in the third period. But after that, I feel like they bounced back pretty nicely from that. They allowed the 2 goals, and it was kind of a little slap in the face-ish, where it was like, all right, this is a 2-goal game now. Hashtag worst lead in hockey or whatever, whatever cliche they want to attach to it. But I felt like they actually finished that game up pretty well. And yeah, there was some pressure at the end when Winnipeg pulled their goalie. But other than that, I felt like the last 5 minutes or so of the game, I felt like the Wild were in a pretty good spot, and I wasn't really all that nervous as I might have been otherwise with a 2-goal lead and the Wild falling into that classic prevent defense, as it were. I felt like they didn't run that classic prevent defense basically until the Jets had an empty net, and the Wild still almost got a scoring opportunity. Poor Jason Pominville botched a literal empty net goal. Not just a good opportunity, but a literal empty net goal at the end of that game.
Yeah, Vanek opted to pass on the hat trick to give Pominville a chance at his first goal, and the puck just floats right off his stick. How about it? Just nobody did anything. Just floated right off his stick and to the defense. I can't explain why this is happening.
You get nothing.
As I just fired out on Twitter, Marty Havlat has scored 1 goal this season, and Jason Pominville has not. And I think Marty Havlat's played like 2 games and is now unemployed.
Yeah, I was going to say, and he's now gone. So I wonder what that. Not that we give a flying crap about Marty Havlat anymore, but I wonder what that was, because he got a PTO with them, and he turned it into a contract, and he was skating with the NHL team, and then suddenly he asked for his release because of personal reasons, and it's just like he couldn't have possibly been upset with his playing time like he was here. You know, at that point, I mean, when you get a contract off of a PTO, you know, just thank God if you're a fourth liner at that point, you know, or even if you're in the press box and getting paid. I mean, it's better than unemployment, and it's not like he's living fat off of a buyout like Ilya Brizgalov. He's not.
No.
I mean, he made some good money, don't get me wrong, but he's not getting paid to sit on his couch. So, you know, that's a paying job, Marty Havlat. What are you doing?
I saw somebody put this out there. Just looking back on Heatley Havlat trade. What a weird trade.
Yeah, that was me on the Wild Extra account, actually. You look back at it, it's like Heatley is now playing in Germany, which is just kind of funny in and of itself because, you know, Oktoberfest. And Havlat gets a PTO, gets a contract, and then bails on it after a couple of weeks. And it's like, man, you know, that deal was I don't know that it was a blockbuster at the time, but it was a pretty significant deal at the time.
Right.
And now it's just like it's kind of like the Pominville snake bitten situation. It's just become comical. Like, the contracts are done, obviously the teams aren't on the hook for anything anymore. But it's become laughable now. It's like, man, these two guys, and not because the trade went in different directions at all. They kind of, you know, unfortunately for everyone involved, they both kind of went in the same direction. But like I said from the Wild Extra account, it's just gotten kind of sad, really.
Yeah.
I mean, two guys that talented.
It's incredible what happens to hockey players when they hit the age of 30, and then everything just falls apart.
Mm-hmm. For some, and then you got Chris Chelios playing until he's 85.
Yeah, or Yager, who's still playing.
Right, and still good.
Still the lamp pretty good.
Yeah, it's mullet magic, baby.
I can't wait for that to come back.
I know. He said he's growing it out, but, I mean, shouldn't he already almost be there by now? You know, it's been 2 months into the season.
You would think so. But, I haven't exactly been keeping up on my Florida Panthers games,
true.
So
well, I follow Luongo on Twitter, and I would hope that he would post updates because it was kind of his idea. But, you know, I haven't seen anything yet, so I would like, you know, a mullet growth chart or at least some kind of time-lapse photography. That I think that would really work nicely.
I'm sure somebody's doing that. Somebody has to be doing it. And then once it's like grown out, somebody will put up the
That's true.
time-lapse. But
they could probably do that with Brett Burns' beard too.
Oh God. That's just a great thing every year in training camp. The addition of the Brent Burns, what is it? Team photo.
The team photo,
his individual photo that goes in the team media guide. It just yikes.
That guy. Oh man.
Pretty soon he'll be Chewbacca.
Yeah. So you know that kind of covers the last week. Obviously, a fair amount going on, even with Parise out of the lineup. And to this team's credit, they're 3-0-1 with Parise out of the lineup, which, you know, over 4 games, if you would have told us that the night that he got hurt, you know, there should not be a Wild fan in the freaking universe that would have turned that down. No,
I'm taking that. 10 out of 10 times.
Oh yeah, no, that's an 8 days a week kind of situation right there. So I don't think that I haven't seen any updates on his injury. Have you seen anything on that by chance?
I think it was either before the game or after the game or so, tweeted that there'll probably be an update on Parise on Monday, but he hasn't started skating yet. So probably still at least, I don't know, a week away at the very, very least. Yeah,
I gotta assume once he starts skating, you're still looking at, I would probably assume a good 2 weeks out. Maybe on the safe side a little bit, but maybe more like a week out because, you know, Zach Parise is superhuman. But, if he's not skating, I guess, you know, we're still kind of just, it's a week-to-week situation, I guess, which...
I think I'll take a guess and say he comes back on the If the update's favorable tomorrow, I'll say he comes back on the 28th of Saturday against Stars.
Yeah.
At home.
Okay.
Usually you want him to come back or is it a road game? I don't remember. There's
I
a
think
lot
that's
of
on
weird
because they play on
rules.
they play on Black Friday too.
Right. I don't know
That's
if you
at
want
home.
him to come right back in and play a back-to-back.
True.
So that's why I'll say, wait.
True.
Put it on Saturday.
Sure. Okay. I think that's a pretty decent prediction. I might be a little more conservative than that and say maybe the first game in December or the first week of December would be my educated guess. But who knows? I mean, these knee injuries are kind of weird in that sometimes it's this one didn't sound like it was too severe, so it could be something he could play with a fair amount, or it could be something that lingers, and let's hope it's not that. Anyway, from there. This week, what is the schedule this week? Even
I got it right here.
Oh, okay.
It's Tuesday at Penguins on NBCSN. So get ready for your Twitter feed to be blown up with. Why is Doc Emmerich saying Granlund?
Hey, just be glad when he's saying his name at this point.
If Charlie were still here, he'd be saying never question Doc Emmerich.
No, he does good work.
But then they play Thursday in Boston, and then Saturday at home against Nashville.
Okay.
So
That's a tough week as well. There's not even... I mean, Boston kind of figures to be that Carolina-esque trap game. But Boston's a little bit better than that. Boston's not a pushover. They're not super good, kind of by design right now. But they're not really a pushover either. Especially at home. That could be a pretty tough game. And obviously Pittsburgh, they're kind of a mess, but they're Pittsburgh. I mean, and talk about a team that's kind of owned the Wild. Holy cripes.
yeah, I noted in the Central Division weekday outlook for this next week that I don't think it'll be worse than the last time the Wild visited Pittsburgh, but you never know. 'Cause obviously referencing last year was the game before they acquired Devin Dubynk and they got lit up 7-2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, like I said, I don't think it can be any worse, and I would certainly hope you come away with 2 out of 3 wins again this week, and especially with Nashville, you gotta win that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Division.
Yeah, I think. I think even if they drop one on the East Coast, I'm not going to be super upset about it, especially to Pittsburgh, because even like I said, even if they're kind of nasty right now, they're still an absurdly talented team. So would it be disappointing if we lost to them, given the state of their team right now? Yeah, it would be. But it wouldn't really shock me either. And Boston, like I said, that's a tough game. Going into Boston, they're not a pushover team, even though they're not a contender. But Nashville at home, that's a game where you really have to get a win, and you really have to avoid giving them a loser point as well, because it's been kind of something that we've harped on at Wild Extra this season so far, and obviously that's not going to stop. But the Central Division is absolutely brutal. I mean, the Wild are in such an unfortunate position of being in really the buzzsaw of divisions in the NHL right now. And so that game becomes much, much bigger than the game against Pittsburgh or Boston this week.
I kind of noted in the Central Division piece for this week too that there's kind of getting some separation between the teams in top and teams in the bottom. Winnipeg's lost 5 in a row,
Oof.
only picking up 1 point in those 5 losses, and now they're 6th in the division. And they've got Colorado on their tail, who's won 3 road games in a row.
What?
They're only up by 3 points. So, it's starting to look like not a guarantee that Colorado's going to take down the last place. But, and then Chicago's got a bunch of road games. I think they got like a 7-game road trip coming up, and they have won 2 out of 7 games on the road this year. But they did just get Duncan Keith and Michael Roseball back, so I would expect them to start putting out a better product.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair. It's and it's tough, and it's not going to get any better. And actually, as the season goes on, we play more divisional games at the end. Relatively speaking. So it's you got to kind of take your chances now and get your shots in here or there, and then really hope to be on fire at the end of the season when you're playing. It feels like a divisional team 2 nights a week, basically.
Yeah, you're usually good for at least 1 divisional game a week.
At least
it's always of big importance, especially in this wonderful division. Whereas any other division, the Wild would be second or first, but they're tied, 3-way tie for second.
Jesus,
it's absurd. Yikes.
Yeah. So anyway, on to a segment that we just started next week, and I can't say that we got positive feedback on it, but we didn't get any negative feedback on it, so I guess that's good, right?
Well, and it doesn't help that you're starting with a team that really has little history like that.
That's true. Yeah. We did start with the Carolina inflamed anuses. But this week, on our jersey preview of the week, we're covering a team that the Wild will see on Thursday, the Boston Bruins. So we're obviously hitting up our one of our favorite websites in the world, NHLuniforms.com, and looking at the history of the Boston Bruins jerseys. And what stands out to you, Giles?
Well, my favorite is the 81 to 95 sets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is highlighted by they have Ray Bourque as the featured player, and it's just kind of got the inverted logo for home and away. That's what you're calling it, but as the crest. But it just it's pretty simple, which is what I usually highly favor. And they got the bear as the shoulder patch, but it's a pretty solid set, one of my favorite sets, and I kind of wish the Bruins would go back to this, but it's probably a lost cause, because just make something new and worse and you'll still sell jerseys.
Right. So. Yeah, and to your point, that whole inverted color thing, what he's talking about is they have a yellow B. They've got the famous spoked wheel B, and on the home jerseys, the white jerseys, the B was black. And on the away jerseys, the black jerseys, the B is yellow. And since then, for some inexplicable reason, they decided to make that a standard logo where the B is black on both the home and away, even when they changed color setups. But, the thing that perplexes me is that it hasn't ever been like that in their history before, so I don't know why they did that. I don't know. I mean, it happened before the Reebok Edge system even came in. It happened in 1995, along with another jersey atrocity, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Like that whole the matching the colors, it just seemed like it worked so well, and I don't know why they felt like they had to go with the standardized logo on both jerseys, as if it was going to be some kind of merchandising snafu. I don't understand.
My explanation is it was a 90s switch, and 90s was just a weird era of jerseys, as we're going to hit on here in a minute, with probably our least favorite jerseys from the Bruins. But, I mean, even their jersey change in 95, where they added the black or yellow, depending on which jersey you're looking at, down the shoulders and arms, and it just... I don't know. Basically, they're like, let's take this great jersey and then make it into a crap jersey. And then it's evolved into just some more weird crap that they've got going on right now, which you're the Bruins. Stick with that simple stuff that looks so good, and it just, nope, let's just keep rolling with crap.
And have you seen the Winter Classic jerseys, actually? They're wearing against the Canadians?
I like those.
Yeah, I like those, too.
Kind of like the sweater feel they've got going this year.
Yep.
Although, to be fair, I'd probably favor the Canadians.
Yeah, that is a good looking jersey as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good jersey.
Yep.
Definitely better than the Stadium Series jersey we're probably going to see in the next 2 weeks.
No, don't say it like that. So you took issue with the famous bear head jersey that we were talking about?
Yeah, that's just quite terrible. I like I don't know. I'm weirdly fascinated by the crest.
Yeah.
The grizzly bear, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
I have no clue what they're doing with shoulder patches. It's just yellow Bruins over the black shoulders. Just block letters that say
Bruins. Yeah.
Nothing special about it.
Well, the weird thing about that jersey is
I don't know what they have with the borders. It's so weird.
That's the part that really gets me. It's like the chest, the actual crest itself, for coming out in 1995, that bear is tame as hell. Like that does not look like a logo that was designed and implemented in 1995, because that was in peak, I'll call it snarl territory as far as professional sports team logos went. That was when you got the werewolf, or I mean the Timberwolf jumping out of the forest logo. That's where you got the neon horse on the Pistons jerseys. That that was a time where every jersey, especially associated with an animal, had to have some kind of ferociousness to it. So this bear being as docile as it looks, and not like currently eating a hiker or something, is actually quite surprising. But yeah, the border of the jersey, the bottom border where it's like this weird interrupted scalloped look, is just brutal. I mean, it's just like they were going for something edgy, but it just looks like they had a malfunction in their fax machine. Like I don't understand what's happening there.
It's weird.
Yeah.
That's one of the golden examples of 90s hockey alternate jerseys. That's up there with the. Actually, this isn't an alternate, but the fisherman.
Yeah, the Gordon's fisherman. Yeah.
The Wild Wing Mighty Ducks.
Oh yeah, jumping out of the ice. Yeah. Yeah, that was. I think that with this segment we're gonna be hitting on 90s jerseys an awful lot, which is sad because, and part of it is like a weird fascination because that was a time when both of us grew up. So to a point, some of those hideous jerseys we kind of remember a little fondly, just because it was part of our childhood. But at the same time, we can still look back and be like, man, that just looks awful.
Yeah, even their current alternates, they just got that weird crest going on, and
I don't mind that as much.
Got a simpler design to it.
Yeah,
but the crest just really throws me.
I don't mind it as much because that was like a legacy thing. That was kind of a harken back to their original logo, and that's really what their Stadium Series was going for as well with the brown. So I don't mind that one as much, the one they're using now. Just because it has some kind of roots with the team. But go back to a yellow B on your black sweaters, and just use the actual bear itself a little more judiciously in the future.
Yeah. It's just bad.
Well put.
Bad.
Yeah. So, anyway, is there anything else that you got, Giles? Is there anything on the week that you can think of? Any hot takes for you today?
No real hot takes. Actually, Josh and I asked me a question for last week's podcast that I completely spaced out about, and I'm trying to scroll through here and find it so I can answer it, because it was Iowa Wild related.
Oh well, then that's relevant, but
And I watched their game from last night today. That was probably the most constructive thing I did. But, oof.
Yeah,
That was just what a team.
I've actually got. If we talk about the Iowa Wild, I've got some theme music for that actually built in.
And while we're on the Iowa Wild, I don't know if you saw, but they were wearing a kind of more USA themed jerseys this weekend.
Yeah,
they were doing a military appreciation.
What did you think of those?
You know, at first I was like, my eyes are on fire. But then as I'm watching these games, they kind of grew on me a little bit, so I wasn't as appalled by them. But as you'll see tomorrow in my minor league update, that just, I don't know. And I also kind of was thinking, I think it was mentioned on the broadcast, which is why I was thinking it's just weird having a bunch of Canadians and Europeans put on these jerseys that are representing America. It's just like,
yeah, it's a little different than like when you've got baseball, and at least in baseball, a majority of the players are American. It's not by much, but you know, you've got somewhere, I think it's in the 60% range or something like that, of Major League Baseball players are American. So, you know, you've got a lot of stars and stripes caps and all that good stuff. Where it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, most of these guys are American. And obviously the Dominican guys that come here, or the Latin American guys in general, I mean, that, you know, they're really achieving the American dream, you know, as it were. Whereas in hockey, you've got, you know, yeah, like you said, you know, maybe 10% on a good night Americans, and the rest of them are, you know, Europeans who, yeah, I'm sure they're appreciative of playing in the States, but it's like they really don't have a whole lot of ties to the States, and they really don't mind going home at all. So it is a little weird. I'm with you on that. It's kind of funny. You know, obviously a great gesture, and I know a lot of that stuff, just like the camo jerseys that teams wear during warm-ups, as bad looking as they might be, it's all for a great cause, and that's obviously the most important thing. But yeah, it is a little it is a little weird looking sometimes, and I think in terms of those kind of jerseys go, I think the Iowa Wild did a pretty decent job of those. You're not going to see a whole lot of those uber patriotic jerseys that look really good, unless the team's color scheme fits it really well, or logo especially. But I think the Wild did a pretty decent job of that. You know, I think they those jerseys were maybe in the C to, you know, C plus range, which for a specialty jersey, especially something patriotic themed, is, you know, if you're grading on a curve, that's A plus territory.
Yeah, and like I said, it kind of grew on me over the weekend, so it wasn't too terrible, and probably in hindsight now, but. And then I think I did see all the jerseys were auctioned off after the game, and obviously all the proceeds went to some charity. I can't remember.
Some military thing.
Military thing, yeah.
Might have been defending the blue line, I'm not sure.
But anyway, what brought this up was a question from Josh in Iowa last week, who said, should the Wild be concerned that their top prospects are playing the blue line, giving up the late leads down for the Iowa Wild? And no, because a lot of these late leads are, well, okay, I'm going to back this up. Last couple weeks, the defense, mainly Mike Riley, has been pretty atrocious.
Ooh.
So if you were kind of wondering the last week when Marco Scandella wasn't there, like, why didn't Mike Riley get a look? Well, Mike Riley has been not good by any means for Iowa. So don't expect him to get a call-up anytime soon. But no, I don't think you should be too terribly concerned, because the team up front is just not good. So you need them to score. They're not scoring. That's a big reason why they're losing a lot of these games. They're a lot more structured defensively and in goal, but they just don't have guys who can score. And the few that do are pretty much going back and forth up to Minnesota right now.
Yeah.
So don't expect them to start lighting a lamp anytime soon. And don't expect them to start racking up wins anytime soon either, unless their goaltending just becomes insane and pitches 80 consecutive shutouts.
Yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it either. I get what he's saying in that you're concerned that these guys are you practice like you play, and if you look at the AHL as kind of like a practice for the NHL, I get that concern. But at the same time, I think that they're down there, especially in Riley's case, they're down there to learn, and if you fail, you have to learn from it, and unless I see, really constant reminders that they're not learning from it at all, especially once they hit the NHL and they carry the same kind of habits, I wouldn't be as concerned about it. I think that, a little bit of credit to Mike Yeo, too. I think that they play maybe a little bit more tight of a system here than maybe they're playing in Iowa, and maybe, the talent level from the forwards, like you're saying, plays a big part in that. I think there's some truth to that because, the cupboard is pretty bare as far as forwards go in Iowa. So I don't think the defensemen are getting a lot of help. And while it is maybe concerning if they're blowing leads late, it's maybe concerning, but it's also better than them getting blown out early and often like they were last season.
Right. Yep, and I mean that's definitely a better trend, and I think their penalty kill has kind of been more reflection of that, of their structure defensively as they're middle of the pack this year, whereas last year they were dead last, I believe.
Oh,
so there has been some improvement. I mean, you're not seeing that in terms of wins and losses yet, but I mean eventually, like we've kind of hit on before, once some guys sign and come over from Europe or college or what have you, this Iowa team will get better. It just,
right, for
whatever reason, they just kind of ignored it for 2 years, and you're seeing the result of that.
Right. All right, yeah, well, that's fair enough. I think, Iowa's obviously an organizational concern, but, I'd like to think some help is on the way. I mean, whether it be Alex Tuck, Mario Lucia, Joel Eriksson Ek, I don't think that we're stacked by any stretch of the imagination. But hopefully some of the better draft picks that they've made in the past couple of seasons start filling that roster a little bit. And we can start to see that maybe a little bit, as early as next season even. Obviously with Lucia coming, hopefully choosing to sign with the Wild and not riling us in turn.
Yeah.
And possibly even with Tuck, depending on how his season goes. He's still very early on in the season. It's very possible that he elects to leave college after his sophomore year. We'll see. He's obviously proven that he's very skilled, so that's a distinct possibility. But wouldn't be surprised if he stayed for his junior year either. So, but we'll see. I mean, it's still a little bit early in the season. Hopefully, we see some improvement out of Iowa, and I mean that's all we can really ask for because this time last year, I believe, was around when they fired their coach. So, we're slightly better off than that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Torchetti is the guy they'll have there for a while.
Sure.
But it's hard to expect much from him when he's kind of been given a roster that's not overflowing with talent at the moment. So we'll see where it goes.
Right. All right. Well, I think that just about covers it, Giles. We're hitting the hour mark here, so any final parting words, any Star Trek quotes, etc.
Well, you mentioned Joel Eriksson. So I guess with the holidays coming up, I hope he does everyone on social media a solid and changes not his Twitter handle, but his Twitter name to Yuletide Greetings and just spell Yule like he spells his first name. So that's my last thought.
As horrifically corny as that is or would be, I'm actually in favor of it because it would help Wild fans to pronounce his name. So, even though it's a dad joke on top of a dad joke on top of a dad joke, I think that it's constructive because then you won't get the whole Granlund argument.
Yeah, I mean, and Doc Emmerich himself said that he asked Granlund's mother. I mean, there's no better source to get that from, and people still annihilate him for it. I don't hate on Doc Emmerich.
That's commitment to your job right there. Yep. Alrighty, well, that'll do it for now. Thank you for downloading, and if you've listened this long, you are just a saint, really. So thank you for downloading, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out wildextra.com this week for all of the hottest of takes and the latest of news, along with me, maybe some spirited forum discussion. We'll see. That for Giles at Giles Farrell, I am Ben at Ben Remington on Twitter, and we will talk to you next week.